arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Vicky.
I'm Rachel.
We're back again.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hungover.
Yeah.
We were talking before this. I was at a wedding last night. I am not sure why I thought scheduling recording the day after a wedding was a good idea.
It's going to be great. If you
But
guys
here
have
we
never
are.
been to a Midwestern wedding in a barn,
it was
you are
literally
missing out.
It's true. It was literally in a barn.
They're the most fun.
It was a good time. It was very beautiful. Congratulations to Tommy and Caitlin, the married couple, the Andres. Yeah, no, it was a good time. I'm just very tired.
Feeling it this morning.
Feeling it for sure. For sure. I'm on the struggle bus for sure.
Well,
That's okay.
Great.
That's okay. We got it.
Look great.
Thank you. We got a podcast to do anyway. So
Yeah.
this is your first time listening. A special hello to you.
Welcome in.
We are going to head over to the newsroom.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
Boop-a-doop-a-doop. We got another meat watch.
What? No way!
Yeah, so it's been a couple weeks.
I was just talking about this.
Yes, I did get this from our In the Field reporter.
Oh my God.
Michael
On the
W.
scene.
On the scene.
Hi, Michael.
So we are once again back in Philly.
Oh my God.
Specifically South Philadelphia. And somebody, unknown people, six men wearing masks dressed in all black, stole 3 pallets of seafood from the back of a tractor trailer. This would have been
3 pallets?
early September. This is like the first week of
Wow.
September. At 3:30 in the morning. They took the pallets
Witching
into
hour.
3 vehicles and then they left. They haven't said what kind of seafood was stolen. But also last month, a pallet of tuna worth
What?
$10,000 was stolen.
$10,000?
Yeah, just a few blocks from where they sold the seafood just a couple weeks ago.
all coming together.
Yeah, it's wild. Literally, so this is the Philly Voice is where this article comes from. It says cargo thefts have been an ongoing issue in Philadelphia. This is probably like the 5th or 6th
Yeah, I was going to say.
time we've reported on this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In July, $15,000 of beef was taken from a refrigerated truck. I think we talked about that one. In Northeast Philly, thieves stole
Beef
bourbon and
burglary.
seafood, which I don't remember the bourbon.
I don't either.
And then the month after that, there was the one with the driver that was injured when they were trying
That's
to
right.
steal the snow crab.
Yeah.
I remember that we talked about that one. That was $30,000. So I am really starting to think there's like a meat seafood ring
Yeah.
going on in Philly right now. Like, it's kind of crazy, the amount of meat that's
wonder-
being stolen.
Okay, nobody sue me because this is just speculation, but I wonder if this is like a whole like racket with like local restaurants trying to get stuff for cheap.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know. Either
It
that or
could
there's
be.
like a giant
But you
sea
would
monster
think-
they're feeding it to.
You would think they have some sort of process for like a crime like this happening, right?
Yeah.
Like the first place you would check if people are buying stolen goods would be restaurants, right?
That's very true.
Like, I wonder if there is like a task force that's like set up to like go around to the restaurants and be like, have you bought any stolen crab legs recently?
A tri-tip task force.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
so we will keep you abreast of any additional meat
chicken
crimes. A chicken breast. Any I was about to say any chicken crimes. Any more meat theft that happens in Philadelphia.
Wow.
But
thank you to Michael, our very sexy reporter on
our,
the scene.
our in the field reporter and friend of the show.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yes. So
Wow.
we're gonna move on to Netflix and Kill.
Yes.
Which this week is a Max and Kill. Because we have to talk about Chimp Crazy. We have to fucking talk about it. And I know you said you hadn't quite watched it yet, but I'm
Not
sure
yet.
you've seen a ton of shit.
Yeah.
It is, first of all, it is sad. I just want to say
Yeah.
that off the top, but it is so good.
That's my
It's
thing.
so good.
Whenever there's like an animal in anything, I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't watch it.
Would it be helpful if I told you that it had a happy ending?
Yes.
Okay, it has a happy ending.
Okay, good.
For the most part. I would say happy ending. You would say happy ending for
Okay,
sure.
okay,
For
good.
sure.
You know me. Okay,
yeah.
good. Good, good,
So,
good, good.
I would suggest it because I've had a couple of people be like, I've tried to watch it.
Yeah.
You're probably wondering, if you haven't watched it, you're probably wondering what the fuck we're talking about. So,
You should know.
Chimp Crazy is a documentary made by Eric Good, who also did Tiger King.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh my God, Tiger King.
Yeah, so he decides to make another documentary that focuses on specifically this woman, Tanya Haddix, who is an exotic animal broker and
Broker.
she works, that's what they call it, the people who like
so funny.
deal in like selling, like buying and trading and selling exotic animals in the United States.
I just always think of broker like sitting in a bank and she's like, hello, 6 chimpanzees on line 4.
Yeah, snakes are dropping. They're going down. Yeah.
Down.
But she was working for I believe it was something like the Missouri Primate Sanctuary was the
Okay.
name of it, right? It was this primate facility, I guess you could say, in Missouri.
So just a frat house, pretty much.
Yeah. So if you remember, okay, if anybody had seen Tiger King, got on the side, have you seen Tiger
absolutely.
King? Okay.
Oh, I marathoned
It is
Tiger
a
King.
similar situation where it's like large cages that have dozens of primates. Some of them are kept inside in smaller cages. Obviously they're breeding these to sell some of
Right.
them, but they're like, we're preserving chimps and apes. So it kind of
Yeah.
focuses on this, specifically the primate industry aspect of things in this documentary.
Right.
It's really interesting to me because after Tiger King, Eric Good was a pariah in the exotic animal community.
Well,
They were like, fuck this guy.
well,
So for this,
you don't need one. Get a goldfish.
he actually had to get a proxy director to go in and be like, hey, I'm directing this film.
No way.
So that people wouldn't, they would allow access to some of these
him wearing
things.
like a false mustache that keeps peeling
Yeah,
off
right.
during the thing. He's like, no,
Yeah.
no.
And
They're
it's
like,
interesting
I've seen you
because
somewhere before.
the gentleman that they get, whose name I honestly can't remember, he is also somebody who's been kind of in the exotic animal industry for a little while. He was a clown for like Barnum and Bailey or one of the big circus people.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he has some experience with exotic animals. He still does like clowning, like for birthday parties and stuff.
Me too.
So he kind
I
of
do it for
like,
free every
you're just
day.
like, I do it every day. So he was kind of already like,
Yeah, involved.
involved, knowledgeable to speak to these people. So anyway,
That was a good choice.
they go in, spoiler warning, they go in, they talk to Tiny Haddix, who is like, Tonka, the chimp, is like her baby. He's like this older chimp, but like, that's her favorite and blah, 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 blah. And then, and Tonka is this chimp that has been acting, like he does a lot of, the chimps from this.
Oh, he's like in movies and stuff.
Yeah, the chimps from this facility specifically they were in like a bunch of these because Alan Cummings is in this documentary also.
No way. The Broadway guy? Alan Cumming from Cabaret?
Probably. He probably
shit.
did Cabaret. Now he does Traders is his big thing. He hosts Traders.
Yeah.
But back in the day, he was in this movie with chimps. It was like all chimps.
Oh, shit. I love Alan Cumming.
And after doing that, he kind of was like, yeah, this actually, I don't actually think this is right. Has kind of done a lot of work with PETA since then and was working to get
cool.
these chimps moved out and moved to a facility.
I love him even more now.
So he had actually worked with Tonka, the main chimp in this. So anyway,
Tonka was like, oh my God, Alan Cumming.
this documentary follows. I'm sorry. This is like the craziest thing. I'm going on and on about it. It essentially follows Tanya Haddix during her fight with PETA to keep the monkeys and the chimps at the facility.
Okay.
PETA wins. They go in, they move out of the chimps, but there's one missing. It's fucking Tonka.
God damn it, Tonka.
She's like, Tonka died.
Yeah,
They
right.
said he had congestive heart failure. He is an older chimp. Like, I will say he isn't older when it comes to primates. Like, he is in his elder years.
Oh, this is
But
breaking my heart.
she said he died. blah, 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 has this, they're filming while all of this is happening, right? They're making the documentary as all of this is happening. They film her on a hearing with a judge and PETA's like, she's telling us that this chimp died because she's also like, here's his ashes. We had him cremated, blah, 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 blah.
And then the camera pans to her in the living room with
and
Tonka.
well, the judge says, while I don't necessarily think that like Tanya Haddix is always truthful, like you haven't brought me any evidence to say that Tonka is still around somewhere. They're convinced he's like just missing and not actually dead. Literally, she gets off the hearing. She's like, we won. And then they follow her to the basement where Tonka is in a fucking cage. And they're like, is that Tonka?
No. And she's like, what are you going to do now, idiot?
Yeah.
Double Jeopardy, stupid.
The directors... She continues.
Poor Tonka.
She continues to claim that he's dead. The directors sort of are now grappling with what to do with this information.
Oh my God.
They end up reporting it to PETA, and they do some off the record conversations because this is a legally fraught thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
meanwhile,
the drama ensues. I will give you that much, which is more than I give most people, because reveal when I was watching it happen, like as they were releasing episodes, was like, what the fuck?
That's just like that one.
Yeah.
Told them all, of course.
If you want to know the happy ending, I will say at the end of it all, Tonka does get moved out. He gets moved to probably the best primate facility in the country, which is like, it consists of basically like 12 islands.
Wow.
So they don't have to have them in cages because they're not going to swim, but they just put them on these islands. So they have plenty of room. And once you breed these animals in captivity, they can't be released back to the wild. So this is like...
Oh, that's that's what I was worried about.
And it's not a public facility either. It's not like somewhere where people can come and look and do whatever.
Because when you were saying there's a happy ending, honestly, in my heart, I was like,
also, she gets attacked by a fucking chimp. So there's that too.
That's a happy ending for me.
She shows up for her final interview, like her hand wrapped. She's got bandages on her ears and all this other stuff.
People doing it on TikTok.
And they were like... She was like, I was with my friend and this chimp came after me. He took a piece of my ear and blah, blah, blah. And then I saw an interview with her since then. And she was like, that never happened. I didn't get attacked by a chimp. They told me to say all these things, blah, blah, blah.
What?
This is why I'm like, it is on the level of Tiger King. Cause like, it's just as fucking bonkers.
Oh, I can't wait.
It says you really should watch it.
I'm watching it.
Worth the watch for sure.
Yes!
Anyway, that is chimp crazy. It is it's been a while since I've been this excited about something. It's super, super good.
What a bunch of monkey business.
Oh my God. Okay. We're gonna move on that note. This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners.
It may not.
We're definitely talking about drugs, about sex work, about murder.
Ooh. Mine is a trigger warning for musical theater. Yeah. Definitely some musical mentions. So hold on to your butts.
Okay, so this week, I don't know where the inspiration came from this, but occasionally I like to talk about attorneys and things.
That's like so weird because you have nothing to do with that.
No,
are you
not
interested
at all?
In law?
No,
I don't know.
I hate it. So this week I wanted to look. I think the last time we talked about attorneys, it was like notable attorneys. I think this is before you joined us. Mm-hmm. This week we're going to talk about attorneys that do crimes.
Stinky.
Because there's like quite a few.
Yeah.
Because there's something about being in a position of power that makes you want to do crime, I think.
I mean, they go through all that school to learn all those laws, but it's like you also learn how to break them.
Well,
you know, little column A, little column B.
You think so, but you don't do it very well, I would say.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
you think they'd be better at covering their own butts.
It's just not possible is the thing, you know? Anyway.
Just stop committing crimes, you guys.
That's the easiest solution.
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about this guy named Paul Berggren.
Ooh.
Who was not familiar with before doing this research.
Oh, those are good ones.
Wild story.
What?
Like they referred to him as, what did they say? I don't know. He's like one of these like huge figures in New York and New Jersey.
Okay.
So.
Wild.
Paul Berggren was raised in Far Rockaway, Queens, New York.
Okay.
For college, he went to Brooklyn College and then attended law school at the Shepherd Broad College of Law.
Okay.
He did take some time to serve in the Army before passing the bar in Florida and New Jersey in 1980 and New York in 1986.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know this, but in order to practice law, you have to pass the bar in any state that you intend to practice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it always different?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it depends. It's a state.
Oh,
what
so
am I
is it
trying to
just
say?
like you have to learn the different, because with every state, legal stuff is different. So it's
Correct.
like you have to take this test to make sure you know the rules.
Right.
In each state. Got
Right.
it. Okay.
Right,
That makes
yeah.
sense. Because
And
there
it's
are so
not-
many things that are so different from state to state.
Yeah, and the bar is not like a multiple choice
Oh, I've heard
thing.
it sucks.
It's super hard. It's very gray.
Did you have to take that?
No, God, no.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, it's very like gray area type thing. Like it's a lot of things that are very fluid and situational because they're like written answers depending on how you'd interpret things. So no, I could if I wanted to. You know, all you need to do to practice law is pass the bar. You don't actually have to have a law degree. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, obviously it is preferred.
Well, yeah.
But you can like intern under an attorney, and then as long as you take the bar and pass the bar, then you're good to go, pretty much. Because that is your
Wow.
licensing.
I mean, that's what Saul
Yeah.
Goodman did.
Yeah. So anyway, little sidebar. So he passed the bar in all these states. His early career in law started pretty successful. He was a prosecutor at the Essex County, New Jersey, and by 1987 was working as assistant U.S. attorney for the U.S. government. Which
Wow.
is a pretty big deal. Under some notables such as Samuel Alito,
Oh.
who's currently on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And Michael Chertoff, who was the Secretary of Homeland Security and co-author of the USA Patriot Act.
So, you know, some nobodies.
Right. Yeah. So up to this point, Bergeron was working on the like prosecuting side of things, but things changed a little bit after he decided to be a character witness for two investigators in the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. The investigators were accused of protecting a drug dealer in exchange for drugs and money.
Oh. Which
Bergeron
is illegal, I would assume.
It's very illegal. Bergeron came in and testified that the accused were, quote, upstanding individuals who would never put their careers or jobs in jeopardy by stating anything other than the truth, end quote. So you wouldn't think this would be much of a problem for him to go and testify as a character witness.
Yeah. He's just like, I know those guys. They seem not criminal.
And he said, like, I went to my bosses to make sure that it was okay and, like, this wouldn't affect my job in any way if I decided to go do this.
Yeah.
And they said, no, it's fine. You can. But afterwards, he said the vibe had changed for him in the office. Like, people were kind of cold and just, like, it was just, like, treating him a little differently.
Wow, I wonder why.
So, well, it's kind of like testifying, like, character witness for the bad guys. Is kind of how they.
Oh, I get. Oh, like he kind of made them look bad.
No. Like they were the investigators were the ones that were being prosecuted.
No, I know. Like he made the lawyers look bad.
Well,
So they were kind of like.
no, he just
hey,
made
listen.
the criminals look good.
I see.
Yeah,
Oh,
not necessarily the
okay.
prosecutor, but like
Oh, I get it.
Granted, you're innocent until proven guilty,
Right.
but like.
I was like, he's
yeah.
sticking up for them, but I see what you mean.
Yeah. Because if they did and he came in and he was like, these were good guys, like the implication is like, okay, maybe this guy
That's fair.
is kind of on the
This is why
shady side
I'm
of
so
things.
glad that you could explain these things to
Yeah.
me.
No, it's all good, girl. That's why I'm here.
Friend.
So after this, like he goes back, the vibe kind of changes.
Yeah.
He decides, I'm just going to leave. He leaves the U.S. Attorney's Office and he decides to switch sides and start doing the criminal defense side of things.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk about some of the big like cases and clients that he had during his criminal defense career. These are all very high profile drug dealers, gang leaders, even some celebrities.
Wow.
So to start, he represented drug kingpin and dope king Hakeem E.T. Hawk Curry, who was later convicted of drug conspiracy and money laundering. Bergeron also represented Angelo the Horn Prisco, who was pretty high up in the Genovese crime family.
He was also probably pretty high.
I mean, probably, but like he was like one of the like big boss
mobster
type guys in the crime
Sheesh.
family. As far as celebrities go, you will know all these people.
Oh my God.
His clients included Queen Latifah.
What?
Naughty by Nature, and Lil' Kim.
Oh my God.
He represented all of them.
What?
Bergeron was hired by former Mrs. New Jersey, who was accused of bouncing $70,000 in checks.
Oops.
There's also some military representations in there with Javal Davis, and he was an Army reservist who admitted to abusing detainees at Abu Ghraib.
Don't do that.
And PFC Corey R. Claggett, who was convicted in the Iron Triangle murders case, which is a whole other thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just before his own legal issues, Bergeron's last big case was this huge multinational OxyContin RICO case.
Ooh.
Yeah. And RICO is going to... So let me talk about this for a second.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Do you know what RICO is?
No.
It's a big deal. It's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's basically this act that they put into place in order to go after these mobsters and stuff because they originally weren't able to prosecute them for just like money crimes, which is what you can get a lot of these guys on. You can't, they're not necessarily considered liable in like murder cases all the time because they didn't like do the murder.
Well, isn't
or whatever,
that kind of the
but,
joke
like,
they got like what's his name for like tax evasion? That's how they get all those mobsters. They
that
get
I'm pretty sure was a
money
RICO
crime.
case.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that might have been one of the earlier ones too, because they literally had to put this in place so they could
That's
like
Al Capone, right? They got him for tax evasion.
something
He went to,
like that.
Alcatraz,
It was one of those guys.
and then thought he was haunted by a ghost,
Yeah.
but he had syphilis.
It was one of those guys.
It'd be like that.
It do be like that.
So, okay, so that's like a whole thing that they're doing to like.
and I'm
combat
sure
them.
after this you're gonna hear a shit ton about RICO
I was
because
gonna
it
say,
still
I'd be like,
comes up
Rico.
all the
'Cause
time.
It does sound familiar. I just thought it was a person because I'm stupid.
No, it just is a acronym. So you're probably wondering what Bergeron did to land himself in this episode.
I am.
The apparent problems began around 2001. Bergeron was retained to represent Norberto Velez, who was charged with attempted murder after stabbing his wife multiple times after an argument at school drop-off. And at the
a tense time.
I've seen some of these school drop-off lines,
No.
homie.
It's horrible.
At the time, the two of them were in the process of divorcing.
Okay.
So like there was also this other stuff happening in the background.
Right.
Now, during trial, Bergeron argued that actually Velez's wife, Mary Lou Bruno Velez, was abusive and sent his client into a deep depression and psychosis. Their child, Carolyn Velez, testified during the trial that her mom had actually brought the knife with her to drop off and attacked his client.
Oh, no.
So at the end of it all, Norberto Velez was acquitted thanks to the self-defense claim and acquitted of 4th-degree aggravated assault with a deadly weapon with the temporary insanity.
That's
claim.
crazy.
Some good lawyering, truthfully.
Yeah.
Kind of, until you know what actually happens.
If I was a woman with stab wounds on my body and then they acquitted him, I would be on the news.
But what if it actually was self-defense? What if they said he had defensive wounds.
Which I get, but you did also stab her a bunch of times, I'm assuming. Was it overkill?
Well,
I don't know.
he was acquitted. It was self-defense.
Okay, well, I don't know.
So there was another trial following this in which Velez was accused of witness tampering, but he was acquitted on that as well. Now, following all of this, Bruno Velez took her daughter to the Essex County Prosecutor's Office where she recorded a video statement alleging Bergeron had coached the daughter to lie in the stand about being abused by her mother and about grabbing the knife before they left the house. There were also allegations of trips to toy stores and going to movies and restaurants and even getting an autographed photo of Queen Latifah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Which were all allegedly bribes.
That would work on me though. I love me some Queen Latifah.
Yeah, especially when you were like 10. Like,
oh, I think
like this
now.
person's giving me toys to be like, my mom's abusive.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
But like,
That's so sad. That poor kid and
Yeah.
the poor mom. Mm-hmm. Wow.
so that happens.
What a shithead.
Now, I mentioned earlier that Bergeron had represented Hakeem Curry. Now, thanks to that, Bergeron also gave his services to a number of people within that sort of like drug trafficking circle, including Curry's cousin, William Baskerville.
Ooh, very sexy name.
Now, that's a... You think sexy? I'm like, you mean like Baskerville the font?
I'm thinking of like Sherlock Holmes, the Hound of Baskervilles.
Nah, I'm thinking
he
of...
sounds like a detective.
I'm thinking of a serif font.
Nerd.
Yeah, I know. So Baskerville was arrested in November 2003 and shortly after learned of a guy by the name of Deshaun McCrae, a.k.a. Chemo. They also called him Chemo. He was likely a government informant on the case.
Wow.
They found this out.
Rat.
Yep. It was understood by everyone involved that if McCrae were to testify, Baskerville would surely go to jail. And without Chemo, the government had no case. Pretty much. Enter Alberto Castro, another drug dealer under the representation of Berggren. Now, in later testimony, Castro said he had been offered $10,000 to put a hit on McCrae. What? Now, of course, I find this so interesting. The money he was making selling drugs was like... With that kind of money, he did not need this measly $10,000. Yeah,
that's it.
So he was like, "I'm not doing that for $10,000." Refused the offer.
Yeah,
because it was too much of a lowball offer.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But then in March 2004, McCrae was approached by a heavyset black male with dreadlocks who shot McCrae in the head 3 to 4 times and fled, killing McCrae.
Oh my God.
Berggren denied any involvement in McCrae's murder, saying he was informing on more than one drug dealer, and there were quite a few people who would have had motive to murder him.
Oh, the typical, this guy was just in a bunch of crazy shit. Which is
he's
true.
not wrong.
Right.
He's not wrong.
That's not the first time I've heard that defense.
Right. Despite his denial of involvement, Berggren withdrew from the case, and Baskerville was charged with conspiracy to murder McCrae. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but still at this point, Berggren had not been indicted.
Right.
With anything.
He's slipping through the cracks. What was Better Call Saul? Slipping Jimmy? He's slipping.
I've never seen it.
Have you never seen Better Call Saul?
No, because I've also never watched Breaking Bad.
Victoria.
I know. Don't use my full name, please.
Vicky,
Nope.
You've never seen
I know.
Oh my God. Okay.
I know.
Okay, well.
I know. Well, you haven't seen a lot of shit I've seen, so.
That's true. That's very true. But it's such a legal show. I thought you liked
I know. Okay, so all of this happens.
He's just getting away with everything.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild.
Wow.
Then Berggren was retained by cocaine trafficker Richard Pozo following his indictment. He had been charged along with co-defendant Pedro Ramos. Now, at some point, Berggren learned that Ramos was cooperating with the government and jeopardizing Pozo's case. In later testimony, Pozo claimed that Berggren asked if he knew where Ramos lived because if they knew that, then they could take him out.
Oh, for lunch?
Yeah,
For a drink.
take him out. Shortly after, Pozo fired Berggren.
Oh my God.
Now, following this incident, Berggren was retained by drug trafficker Vicente Estevez in 2008. In later testimony, Estevez said that once again, Berggren's legal advice included killing witnesses, doctoring tax returns to make drug revenue look legal and therefore usable to pay bail.
Some light money laundering.
Light money laundering. And arranging for his co-defendants to be represented by attorneys he had handpicked who were instructed to inform him if any of them decided to cooperate with the state.
What?
Yeah.
Sir, those are not legal things.
Are you sure?
None of that shit was on the bar.
Sure?
I know it. There's no way. No way.
Yeah. Honestly,
oh my God.
The extra step of have your friends use these guys that I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
And they're just informing back to him.
He's just got his thumbs in all the pies. That's crazy. How are they going to catch this guy?
Well, we'll get into it. But even I'm pretty sure that having co-defendants represented by the same law firm is ethically
That's
a
what I
no-no.
was gonna say.
I think
I was
that's
like, how did he do that?
Kind
That's
of, you have to get
crazy.
like special permission, even to
Yeah.
have one attorney. Like they don't like to have one attorney with
Right.
multiple co-defendants, but you also don't want it in the same firm because that's like
It's like a conflict of interest.
yes,
I get that.
Yes, yeah,
You
yeah.
want people to not know each other.
I don't know if they were all at the same law firm, but like
Right. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
understand. Obviously, he knew these people.
right, right.
Shady.
There was even a government informant named Oscar Cordova who posed as a hitman and recorded conversations involving Bergeron, asking him to kill one of Estevez's associates.
Oops.
Later, Bergeron said, he was
no.
like, I knew this guy was an informant. I was just like role playing. I was like playing along.
Oh, yeah. Yup.
I knew he was an informant and I knew he wanted me to say to just kill this guy. So I did.
You know, I had nothing to do. My improv class got canceled, and I was like, I'm a little rusty.
I just yes-anded my way into a hit. Accidentally yes-anded my way into a murder.
That's like the title of our documentary.
Yes and murder.
I love that.
Yeah. So we're going to backtrack just a little bit into 2001. Bergeron meets this guy named Jason Itzler.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of him before?
No.
Okay, so he's honestly kind of an interesting character in his own right. I kind of want to cover him later in a later episode. But Itzler is described as an American businessman, an attorney, and YouTuber. Itzler and Bergeron first connected after Bergeron was called when Itzler was arrested for attempting to smuggle ecstasy into the United States.
Damn it.
Following his release on the smuggling charges in 2003, Itzler founded a prostitution ring and escort service called New York Confidential, which is sort of,
New York
in my opinion, it seems to be his biggest claim to fame is this like New York Confidential thing.
Yeah.
Now, as part of his terms of parole, Itzler was required to maintain employment, and Bergeron helped him out with this by falsely listing Itzler as a paralegal in his office.
Oh my God.
In return, Bergeron got up to $5,000 a week for laundering the money that New York Confidential was making through the firm.
So he was working for him, just not in the way that they said on paper.
Right. Well,
He's like, he sweeps up and does my papers for me. And he's
I mean-
I'm doing money laundering.
Bergeron was doing the laundering.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, like,
Itzler was just like
yeah, he's kind of helping him.
doing escort service shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got the kickbacks for laundering. So he got $5,000 a week and free access to the services from the sex workers that were
Ew.
involved in the
I bet they hated to see him coming. He's like, hey, ladies.
Probably,
I didn't bring my wallet because I don't have to.
Yeah.
They're like, ew. Dude.
Yeah, yeah.
You're annoying. They're like, bring us more pictures of Queen Latifah.
We just want the autographs. So just 2 years after being released, Itzler was arrested and pled guilty to money laundering and promoting prostitution. While he was busy serving his 18 months in prison, Bergeron very graciously took over the business, which netted him thousands of dollars in profits.
Out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'll take care of this for you, buddy.
This is kind of like where things kick off, I think,
Yeah.
for Bergeron. Like, he is now, I don't want to say he wasn't on the radar before, because I
Right.
think everybody kind of knew him as this,
But
like,
I mean, you were being like a lawyer and now you're being like a pimp.
yeah, he was, I think he was not being as obvious.
Right.
Originally. And
Right.
then he
That's a
probably
little
got,
brazen.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
getting too big for his britches.
So in 2007, Bergeron was arrested and charged with money laundering, conspiracy, promoting prostitution, and misconduct by an attorney.
Yeah.
At this point, he was looking at 25 years in prison. Now, his defense in all of this was retaliation by prosecutors due to his representation of criminal defendants.
It's all a conspiracy.
But when all was said and done, Bergeron pleaded guilty to lesser misdemeanor charges on May 4th, 2009. They settled on time served, 3 years probation, and a $50,000 fine.
That's it?
Yes. For just that.
Okay.
That was just basically the prostitution stuff.
Right.
Now.
But like going from 25 to nothing is annoying.
Yeah. I mean, he pled out. He also doesn't have a criminal record.
Let's
it would
talk
have been
about
his.
the legal
It
system.
would have been his. Yeah, it would have been his first. I can see. I'm not. I don't agree with it necessarily, but like I can see
understand.
he's also an attorney, which is
Right.
like considered an upstanding member of society. Like there are a lot of these things. So
I know.
but. If you thought this was all the comeuppance that Bergeron was going to have, you'd be incredibly wrong.
Oh, good.
Because, so he pleads guilty on May 4th. On May 20th, 2009, Bergeron was arrested for a number of things, including racketeering and racketeering conspiracy.
I love that word.
Wire fraud and wire fraud conspiracy, murdering a federal witness and conspiracy to murder a federal witness, and travel act and conspiracy to commit travel act violations.
Just a couple, slaps on the wrist.
Yeah. So this is from the initial arrest documents. They said, quote, as set forth in the indictment, Bergeron has used his law firm to carry out a pattern of criminal activities. Bergeron, who is an attorney who is admitted to practice law in the states of New Jersey, New York, and elsewhere during the time period of at least 2002 through the present. From at least in or about 2002 through the present, Bergeron and others have operated a criminal enterprise, hereafter the Bergen Law Enterprise. The Bergen Law Enterprise has used Bergeron's law practice to engage in a pattern of racketeering activity, including murder, witness tampering, travel in aid of racketeering, wire fraud, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
Wow.
Bergeron has marketed his law practice to drug trafficking organizations, street gangs, and other criminal organizations. Bergeron provides a variety of legal services to his criminal clients, end quote. So that's directly from like
That
the
pretty
arrest
much
documents.
sums it up.
Yeah, and some of this does, I mean, obviously they go broad with initial arrest documents. They go really broad.
Right, of course.
And some of that does get pared down a bit when you get to court. But at some point, I say that because at some point a trial court dismisses the RICO charges, but then they're reinstated by April 2011. In June of the same year, a federal grand jury, that was from the state, federal grand jury returned a 138-page superseding indictment that charged him with a number of federal crimes, the biggest being the racketeering.
Would you define superseding?
It means it is like... What's the best way to define superseding?
Sorry.
No. It like overrules any previous indictments.
Got it.
It's like, okay, this
so
is
they're
like the
we're
master.
The federal government, the end.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just means that it's like,
So it's like
this
overruled.
is, kind of.
Because they have that like
I was going to say it supersedes, but that's what you're asking me about. No,
got it.
Yeah, it supersedes. It like becomes the authority.
Got it.
Of whatever they're
They're
talking
like, get
about.
all this shit out of here. We're the federal government.
Correct.
Anyway, this is what we say. Got it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I do want to quickly mention that following Bergeron's first trial, the one that he pled guilty to the misdemeanor charges, the New Jersey Disciplinary Review Board suspended him from practicing law as of June 2009, which later was fully upgraded to disbarment in June 2017. So I just wanted to drop that in there.
Disbarment just in New Jersey or like for everyone? Because I know like we said earlier, like different states are different.
So it would just be New Jersey. But I
But then
think
the
that
permanent
has to get
disbarment is like for everybody.
No.
Okay.
That would be in New Jersey.
Okay.
But I think that they are required to disclose that when they're licensing, like getting renewed.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that New Jersey would also report it to the other states.
See, I know this is different, but I'm thinking about like cops who it's like, and priests.
No,
who have,
they
like, the
can no,
same
they
thing.
they just fuck off to another police department.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I was like, if he's in trouble in New Jersey, can he then just go to one of the other states where he passed the bar and be like, no, it's fine. But they would call and be like, hey, actually,
I hate to say it,
Google this guy.
You don't have to be licensed to be either of those.
Hate that.
There is no licensure requirement.
I don't like that.
I know. Just saying. Anyway.
Sorry, everybody. This is so interesting.
So Bergeron's trial began in 2011, but some of the charges resulted in a hung jury.
Okay.
So a second trial began in 2012. This time the government, so they didn't have this the first time around, but this time the government was given permission to introduce the evidence regarding the alleged murder plot against Pedro Ramos while representing Richard Pozo. They weren't allowed to include that before, but then they got permission to. Not sure what changed.
I find that so frustrating.
Yeah. It seemed to be the additional evidence that they needed because after 2 months of trial in March 2013, Bergeron was found guilty of 23 counts. The biggest charges included murdering a witness, drug trafficking, and prostitution-based offenses. He received a life sentence for his
Good.
crimes. There was an attempt to make an appeal.
I'm sure.
Yeah, with Bergeron's defense team saying, now this again is from the appeal. Quote, he claimed to have discovered new evidence in the form of phone records, wiretap recordings, and statements from almost a dozen individuals demonstrating that the prosecution's key witness lied during his trial. He also said that the prosecution suppressed certain exculpatory evidence in violation of its Brady obligations. Are you familiar with Brady violations at all?
No, I'm not sure.
So a Brady violation, Brady basically requires that the prosecution is required to turn over any exculpatory evidence to the defense team. And exculpatory just means things that would point at guilt.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good thing to have.
Things that would point, or things that, like, basically any pertinent evidence is like, if you don't turn over evidence, it's a Brady violation.
I think law is insane because I'm like, why wouldn't you have to give them everything anyway? That drives me crazy.
Yeah, you would think so. Let me make sure I'm getting
That's
this
why
right.
it's complicated. Too complicated for me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had that backwards. Exculpatory
sorry.
shows innocence.
Oh.
So they can't hide stuff that would like prove the
Got
defense's
it.
innocence. They can't just
Okay.
like be like, well, we didn't find this. You know?
Because I would think normally they would just present what they wanted to present.
Correct.
So this act is like, actually, no, you have to give everything that you found.
So he's like, they violated Brady. I'm sure you hear a lot about Brady violations.
I've
in
heard
court
it
cases
before,
and
but I
stuff,
just wasn't sure what it meant.
Yeah, it's just them claiming that the prosecution is not turning over
Got it.
evidence that would prove the innocence of whoever. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this ended up all the way at the state Supreme Court, which denied any Brady violations and claims of newly discovered evidence and affirmed Bergeron's conviction. So yeah, he's just like
Wow.
in jail.
I wonder what he's doing in jail.
Well, I know it's interesting because when he initially went in for these crimes, he was in a special housing unit.
Right.
Originally, but then he was released into general population.
Wow.
Which is, I'm not sure how that would go because frankly, he represented a lot of people who were probably in there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like
Could go
he
either
also
way.
tried to put hits out on like other people that might be in there. So, you know, it's like,
yeah,
6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like,
right.
I'm not sure, but
It's either really good for him or really bad for him.
Yeah.
Right.
But he,
wow.
Bergeron was the guy who just took his attorneying a little too far.
That guy did not deserve to know the great and beautiful Queen Latifah. That's what I take away from that.
What about Lil' Kim? Not a fan?
She can put her boob back away.
Oh, God.
I'm not a big fan, but I love Queen Latifah. Wow, that is so interesting. I always think lawyer cases are so interesting because they're so slippery.
Yeah.
Slippery and sneaky.
Most of the time. Sometimes they're just really dumb.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes they're just really stupid.
Wow, what a dick.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's like a kingpin of New Jersey because he's like
That's kind of cool.
putting hits out and shit.
Yeah,
Working for these big crime
being
families.
very
And
mafia. I want to watch Mob Wives.
oh, God.
That's my takeaway. This, you picked attorneys behaving badly, which are lawyers known for being shady?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, it kind of depends on the industry. I don't want to say that because I do work
No,
for
for
attorneys
real.
and they're not shady, but like
Yeah.
I think there is a reputation.
Yeah.
Like car salesmen, right? That are kind of like,
Yes.
ooh, attorneys are a little
hucksters.
skeezy. And I do know attorneys like that.
Yeah.
That are like,
I think it's just the
on the skeezy
territory.
side. Yeah.
And I do kind of think there is this like media thing where it's like, don't trust lawyers, especially like we've talked before, like when you get arrested, call a lawyer. Don't talk to the police. You should call a lawyer so they can help you. And I think there's this very like anti-lawyer narrative that isn't necessarily true. Not in all ways, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's also,
what I mean?
There's also this culture of like old white guy attorneys.
Yeah.
And that are like I don't know. Like, and I say old as in like close to retirement.
Yeah.
That are like, well, I've been in the game for so many years.
Right,
and blah,
but they're
blah,
not
blah,
all
blah,
like
blah, blah.
that.
No, definitely not.
No, totally. I completely agree. So there was obviously a lot of material to choose from when it comes to shady attorneys. And I think my choice definitely outs me as a partially reformed theater kid.
Yeah.
Have you seen Hamilton?
Of course.
Yeah, I definitely watch Hamilton at least like once a month. I'm a big fan. But I will say I did not know like half of this information. Like I thought I was going to be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. I'll do, if you guys haven't figured it out, I'm doing Aaron Burr.
Ooh.
Definitely a badly behaved attorney.
I feel like this is going to hit the sweet spot for some listeners for sure. Yeah.
You guys are here. All right, you're here with me. We're here together.
Where are we? Are we here?
I don't know. We are here. I do feel like, and like I ask, like, have you seen Hamilton? I feel like everyone on earth, like even if you're not a theater person, you know Hamilton. When you hear Hamilton, you're like, oh, that's Hamilton. Like it's one of those.
Kind of.
I feel
you would think so. I had a very good friend of mine who had gone to see Hamilton without knowing anything. And this was like last year.
Really?
She had managed to avoid anything about it.
What?
And she's kind of a history buff.
What?
So she thought it was just like a historical play, and she showed up and they were like rapping and shit. She was like, yeah, it was one of those moments of like having to adjust my
your
expectations.
Yes.
She's like, once I did that, I thought it was really good. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
But I'm, like I said, like last year, so like 2023.
That's amazing.
Avoided any Hamilton anything.
I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah.
Maybe she's in witness protection. I kind of love that for her.
Definitely not.
So, I feel like everyone besides your friend has seen Hamilton. So when it comes to the events of Burr's life up until the duel that would end the life of his rival, I'll keep it a little bit short. So Aaron Burr was born on February 6, 1756, which makes him an Aquarius, which honestly really makes sense.
Oh my God.
The whole time, you can be quiet, the whole time that I was reading this, I would be like, oh my God, why did he do that? Oh, Aquarius. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
So, see, he did that. This was his age of Aquarius. So he was born in what would eventually become the area of Newark, New Jersey. So another Jersey case. His parents were religious folks. His mother, Esther, was the daughter of a famed theologian. Okay. So a big like religious researcher. And both his father and his grandfather before him had held the presidential position at what was then called the College of New Jersey, but would become Princeton University.
Okay. Wow.
Right. So a little,
which I don't think it was. I'm sure it was not as prestigious back then, but like.
It was still kind of
there was like two colleges in the U.S., right? Like,
right. There were less.
Yeah, that's why it's prestigious, is because it started all the way back then.
And it still was like kind of fancy. Yeah, and I think Burr would have likely lived a pretty comfortable life if his father, the Reverend Aaron Burr Sr., hadn't decided to inconveniently pass away. What a jerk. If that wasn't bad enough, Burr's mother, grandmother, and grandfather also kicked the proverbial bucket all in 1 year.
They were all what, in their like 30s? No.
Yeah, probably. It didn't say like half of these. It doesn't give like cause of death because I mean, of course, this is in the 1700s, but every time I'm thinking it, I'm like, what did they like have a piece of like slightly off cheese?
They got a paper cut.
Yeah, really.
Lost an arm and then died. Yeah.
They're like, I bent over and that was enough for me.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, really. Seriously.
Same girl.
For real. I need to get like orthopedic shoes. Oh my
orthopedic
God.
Bubble.
Yeah, I do. I honestly
just an orthopedic bubble I can live in.
Like a rubber room. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're at that point.
But not in like crazy way. And like
no, in like a cute way. In a very demure and mindful way.
Very mindful.
That's my favorite thing. So yeah, everyone in his family except his siblings pretty much died. Everyone who could take care of them pretty much died. So they were subsequently placed with like kind of a foster family, like another wealthy family in the area. And then for some reason, they were shipped off to live with their young and allegedly very irresponsible uncle who was only 21.
Oh my God.
Like And
Can you imagine a kid
Oh my
arriving
God.
on your doorstep at 21?
he had siblings, so there were more children, so like
Yeah.
a bunch of kids. And this is contested, but Aaron Burr would say that his uncle, he hated his uncle and he was extremely abusive to him. And he is recorded as having tried to run away several times in childhood.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that's true or not, but like either way, like living with a 21-year-old, that sucks.
Well, and I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, of course
because
not.
frankly, child rearing practices back then
Completely.
were questionable, I would say, at the very least.
Yes, you're complete. And the only
You
reason I
know?
say it's unsubstantiated is because he did a little bit of fibbing here and there.
Okay.
So I'm just not
No
sure.
George Washington.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that
Okay.
too. That guy was not being honest either. By the grace of Lin-Manuel Miranda, Aaron managed to dodge whatever bad energy was affecting his family tree and successfully made it into adulthood.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay! Having attended the same school his father and grandfather had presided over, Princeton, or the artist formerly known as New Jersey College. And he got accepted there at like 13. So,
Okay.
like, I don't know. Like, I was trying to look into it because I was like, was he a super genius? Or were they like, yeah, you're an adult at 13? I don't know.
I'm sure, I mean,
You know, like, it was one of those things I was like,
I
I'm
have
trying
a
to figure it out.
feeling, and I could, again, like, I'm no historical scholar. Like,
Me
I think
neither.
that has been proven time and time again. But my gut feeling would be like, at that age, at 13, right? Like, you either decide to pursue scholarly pursuits or you go to work on the farm or you
That's
go to
very
like,
true.
you know what I mean? So
That's
like,
true.
maybe it wasn't even necessarily, I know it was called a college, but it was
maybe it was
probably
more like a
more of just an
school.
educational institution.
That's very true. I kind
know?
of feel like the line back then was a little thinner.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you were working in the farm, you were likely uneducated because your family just didn't.
Right.
You didn't have the time or the wealth or whatever to send
Right.
your kids to school.
Which
Past like 10, right?
relevant.
Like
Right.
enough to read and write, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And he was always said to be very bright. But yeah, you're right. I do think that's a choice that a lot of like boys had to make. Like, am I going to be in
the boys,
field
of
or-
course.
well, I know.
I know.
Oh my God.
I wasn't even thinking that, but you're absolutely right.
So mad all day long.
Fucking men.
Again, with like all of this being different, again, I don't know if he was like some prodigy, but it said he received a BA at 16.
Okay.
I'm like, that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Then he had kind of a change of heart and went into theological studies for a little bit.
Okay.
And then at 19, he was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going back to law. So he traveled to North Carolina to study law, but then had to put his dreams of being a lawyer on hold when news of the burgeoning Revolutionary War caused him to enlist for battle.
Oh, shit.
He was like, I'm gonna fight. There, he continuously impressed seasoned military figures with his dedication and intelligence. Colonel Benedict Arnold, which like, hi, praised Burr's, quote, great spirit and resolution. And through a series of sexy little side quests, Aaron clambered his way up into a very important spot by the side of little-known cherry tree destroyer General George Washington.
I did have that right. He's the one who everyone's like, cannot tell a lie.
Did
That's
you know
George
that's
Washington?
not fucking true?
Well, probably, but am I thinking of the right guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the whole thing, was George Washington cut down the cherry tree.
Right.
And then his dad was like, did you do that? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, that's great because it's
Yeah.
important to be honest.
Also, false teeth.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Oh, so that was a thing that like I included and then took out, but I'm putting back in. I feel like we were all told in elementary school that George Washington had like wooden teeth.
Yeah.
And he had teeth from like, I remember hearing that it was like teeth from like animals. No, he did not have wooden teeth or teeth from animals. He had slaves and he pulled teeth from enslaved people.
Oh
and
my
put them
God.
in it.
That's so much more macabre than I would have assumed.
Correct. So I think that's
Wild.
why we didn't have the real story. Is
I mean,
because
fair.
They
Yeah.
were enslaved people's teeth.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
think
very
at one
common.
point he did have some that did have like other teeth in it, but that was the majority of his teeth.
Dude, I do not want my dentures being made out of literally someone else's teeth.
Isn't that
That's so disgusting.
That's
It's so disgusting.
teeth are gross.
Yeah.
If you're a dental hygienist, you're brave. I can't. People are gross. I don't know what they got in their mouth. That's gross.
true.
My teeth. That's gross. Yeah, that George Washington cherry tree story was literally just like written for a book. It's not true at
Yeah,
all. So it's so
doesn't surprise
funny
me.
that this like such like, you have to tell the truth story is a lie. Doesn't have anything to do with the story I'm telling, but you know, pretty funny.
Yeah.
Despite being a gross bitch who wore other people's teeth for fun, Washington was obviously like an important guy at the time.
Yeah.
And Burr really craved validation because he had daddy issues. After a successful military victory where Burr managed to hold off a capture of a bridge, like from the British,
Okay.
or the English as they were called. They didn't call them the British, they called them the English. Washington failed to mention Burr's actions that led to the rescue of the brigade with the defense of the bridge. Normally how it worked is like every morning in like the military camp, Washington would hold kind of like morning announcements, which is like so cute.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, last night at battle, you did really good. You get a gold
Here's the
star.
numbers.
Right. And he was like, this one did good, and this one did good.
We need to get our productivity up.
Right. He's like, synergy. He's got like charts and stuff.
Yeah,
They're like,
the
sir,
whiteboard.
Sir, I can't read. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, me neither.
How are you erasing this ink we thought was permanent?
Magical. Wow.
Oh my
Like
god.
they know what a fucking marker was.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So that was usually kind of the way to get your name out there, because there were all of these military important political people all like rubbing elbows. So when Washington didn't shout Burr out, which it's not really known why he didn't, I'm like, I don't know. They were all like fucking drunk. He probably forgot. You know, so what? Burr saw this admission of his win as a huge personal slight. And this led to a mild but long-lasting beef between the two men. I say beef. I really don't think Washington even gave a fuck. Like, I think of that thing from like the Avengers movie. She's like, you took everything from me, and he's like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I feel like that's how it is, where
That's
he's just
funny.
like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Like,
a very
Washington
one-sided beef.
Yeah. So it's like this random, like almost lawyer who's like 19 and George Washington. So I'm sure George didn't lose any sleep
funny. Yeah.
over it. Having Washington as his biggest op, at least in his mind, didn't stop Burr from eventually being promoted to lieutenant colonel in 1777.
Okay.
He ended up being pretty good at his job, succeeding many victories before retiring from the army in 1779 after suffering some health problems relating to heat stroke. So I read a bunch of stuff around it and like, yeah, he could have had heat stroke, but I also just kind of think he was like, I'm done now. It seemed a lot of people viewed him leaving the army as kind of running away. Mm-hmm. Like, because he got like honorably discharged, like, or what the equivalent of that would be today.
Yeah.
But it was kind of seen as like, I'm just going to go home now.
Is he one of these people that was like quiet quitting the army?
Yeah.
Is that like what it was?
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, I got heat stroke a while ago, and like, ow.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
warm. And
My
they're like,
tummy
"Get the
hurts.
fuck-" Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he was like, all right, I think this is enough to me not be in the army. I have a
Right.
tummy ache. Can you send me home?
and then continue to have a very prestigious career doing all of these strenuous things. Right. Yeah, you get it. But I will say, even after leaving the army, he continued to serve by carrying secret messages and leading at least one raid on the English.
Okay.
So he was still like doing army stuff.
Yeah.
In 1780, he was able to resume his schooling to become a lawyer, and he was finally licensed as an attorney in Albany, New York, 1782. He pretty much immediately opened his own practice, although the building would have to be moved eventually due to war. He also, this is just kind of a side note, but it's funny. He got married during this time, which was scandalous in and of itself because his wife, Mrs. Theodosia Bartow Prevost, had not only been married before,
Oh my God.
having been widowed when her previous hubs had contracted yellow fever.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
But she was also, oh, wait for it, 10 years older than him. Which, why is everybody hating on my boy for bagging a MILF? I really don't know. I'm like, that's
wild
the
because
dream.
if it was the other way around, it would
fine.
have been fine.
Right.
But was it like taboo for a widow to remarry at that time? I think it would have been weirder if she had gotten divorced, which is also way more difficult at that point. But
that'll come up later too.
because
So
I think they were still Well, I guess they're all Protestant, really.
Yeah. It wasn't so much that she was a widow. It was that A, she was so much older. It
Okay.
was seen as improper. And B, they were definitely hanging out and fraternizing. And like she would come to visit him. And they were like, who is this lady? who
Yeah.
keeps coming? And they were like from different, he was very poor. You know, he came from nothing.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't, but I mean, he had nothing because everybody
Yeah.
was dead.
Yeah.
And she was a little more high society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the actual like being, because I'm like, that seemed pretty above board.
Yeah.
Because her husband literally died.
Yeah, no, that part's fine. But the part
Okay.
that she's fancier than him and older than
Gotcha.
him, and then like
And they were maybe like fucking outside of marriage.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually pretty sure they had a daughter who would end up dying at sea eventually, as you do in the 1800s. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that she was conceived before they were
Gotcha.
married.
They like conceived and they were like, oh fuck, we need to get
Yeah.
married.
I'm pretty sure. I could
Gotcha,
definitely be
gotcha.
wrong. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just all kinds of escandalo.
Yeah.
They lived happily together for 10 years until Theodosia passed away, having cemented her place in history as one of the first officially recognized cougars. You know that song, Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson?
Yeah.
That was actually inspired by Theodosia, is what I would say if I was a fucking liar, because that's not true.
Oh.
I literally made that up.
Oh.
That's not true.
Why would you do that?
For fun. Even though...
You're the authority. People trust you, dude.
Too bad. Don't you look foolish?
No. I trusted you. My whole life is a lie.
Skill issue. Isn't that funny though? I'm like, she's just milfing around. Even though Burr loved his delicious cougar wife, arguably the most important and, might I allege, most sexually charged relationship in Burr's life was with his fellow revolutionary, Alexander Hamilton. That's
God.
mostly a joke. There are rumors that have gone around that like
This isn't like a
maybe-
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon thing.
Which could be nothing.
Which could be nothing.
I'm obsessed with that.
I know you are.
They are
I'm
in
really actually sad that I even brought it up because I feel like my TikTok inbox is about to blow up again.
It is. It is.
I don't want them.
Too bad. It's literally cry me a fucking river. The two have a fun and delightful history, which I'll explain to you in song. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. It's on Disney Plus, and we here at the Bad Taste Crime Podcast cannot afford the rights.
No.
Yet.
Never.
So if you want, you can
No,
catch
we
up on
never
the
will.
musical or a documentary if you're like boring, and witness it for yourself. These two were not exactly friends, and they were not exactly enemies. They came from similar backgrounds. They were both orphans. They had both served in the Revolutionary War and both played important roles in the forming of the country. They even shared a law office together at some point, which is frankly like really cute. I
Yeah.
would kill to see that sitcom. So like, I don't know if they would be like Jim and Pam or if they would be Jim and Dwight. Like, I feel like Hamilton would put Burr's like whatever colonial stapler in Jell-O, and he'd be like, Hamilton! Like, it would just be like really cute.
The colonial stapler.
Yeah,
So
whatever.
fun. His quill.
Yeah, oh my god, the quill in the Jell-O.
Quill
That
in the
is
Jell-O.
so cute. I love that so much. Both men were successful attorneys, and without historical evidence of any office prank wars, one can assume that they got along fairly well. That is until Aaron Burr, having already been named the Attorney General in 1789, decided to try to become a senator.
Okay.
He succeeded, defeating a much older and more experienced opponent named Philip Schuyler, who unfortunately for him was the father-in-law to none other than his cubicle buddy, Alexander Hamilton. Yeah, so
That's
the
funny.
water cooler conversations, ye old water cooler conversations were like a little awkies after that.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Burr did serve in the Senate for his 6-year term before setting his sights on ye old big enchilada. That's right, Aaron Burr was ready to be president. Unfortunately for him, America did not appear to feel the same way.
I was like, were we? I don't
No,
think so.
we weren't.
I don't think so.
And his 2 campaigns were unsuccessful, but not in the same way. He lost to John Adams in 96, but then was voted in as vice president to Thomas Jefferson who is one of my biggest historical enemies. I will be waiting in line to beat his ass in the afterlife. And side note, apparently Hamilton felt the same. He hated Jefferson, which added to their already sort of fraught relationship.
Yeah.
Now, this election did not go smoothly, and things worked a little differently back then. People didn't exactly, like, so now it's like, I'm running for president, and then I'm going to pick my vice president, and this is who's running with me. It didn't work that way. Everybody got to cast 2 votes, like in the Electoral College, for 2 separate candidates. And at the end, whoever got the most votes would be president, and whoever got the second most votes would be vice president, even if they weren't from the same party.
I don't like.
Me
I was
neither.
honestly on board
I
with
know.
that until the party thing.
That's what I said.
That would just
like,
be a
insane?
fucking nightmare.
That's what I was going to say, was I
Yeah.
was like, I could
but
see.
I'll also say the parties back then were not
Yeah.
as far apart
Very
as
true.
they are now. Yeah.
Literally, the party that he was in was called the Democratic Republican Party. I was
Yeah.
like, which one? But I mean, they were all switched back then anyway.
Yeah.
So weird. And this practice would actually continue until the passing of the 12th Amendment in 1804. So it was
Wow.
like a little long.
That's wild.
The problem with this, despite the fact that it's dumb, began with the fact that both Burr and Jefferson originally received the same amount of votes. They both got 73 votes. So it was like, what do we do? So the House of Representatives was supposed to break the tie. They ended up giving it to Jefferson because he had already served as VP to John Adams in the previous term. So they were like, well, he has more experience. He's older. They gave Burr the vice spot. This was helped along by Hamilton, who greatly disliked the idea of President Burr and actively campaigned against him. Like, he was on the House floor being like, this is the reason why he should not be president.
Okay.
Technically, Burr could have contested, but he remained silent. And so the presidency went to Jefferson. I think he kind of knew, like, he didn't have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
But privately, Burr was not content with the title of First Lady, and his formerly cordial relationship with Hamilton went decidedly south. Now, I'm going to move away from that. We will come back to that later, because even though this is a colonial story, there is a recent update that I think you'll find very interesting.
Okay.
Burr continued to successfully practice law during his vice presidency, but was not privy to many White House matters because Jefferson didn't like him and, like, wouldn't bring him
So he
to
just
stuff.
cut him out
Yeah,
of,
he did.
of
And
the text thread.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything that had to do with anything, like, presidential, he was like, I'm not inviting that guy. This guy's weird.
Jeez.
His wig smells. Craving political power, he decided to try to run for governor of New York when his stint as VP came to an end. But again, Hamilton stepped in to campaign against Burr, saying, Mr. Burr is a dangerous man and one who ought not to be trusted with the reins of the government.
Dude, I love that he has nothing to do with fucking New York. And
Literally.
he's just like, but I want to fuck your life up
Fuck
so
Burr.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure to take out ads and go
Yeah.
talk to people and do whatever.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm not even going-
He's
there's
not
a-
bitter at all.
No, not even a
He's
little bit.
not bitter.
Not even a little bit. And there's so much to their relationship. There's so many
wild.
different reasons why they hate each other. This
Yeah.
would be a 17-hour podcast.
Their shit was so petty back then.
Very
too.
petty. Well, they didn't have cable. These were what the colonial citizens of America then called fighting words. And after sending back and forth a series of angry letters, where I'm assuming they sent each other little, like, they would draw out like, little rifle emojis.
Yeah, right. I just meant, fuck you. No,
yeah.
fuck you. No, fuck you.
No, I'm gonna get you. Maybe after gym class. Led Burr to challenge Hamilton to a duel, and Hamilton, publicly known as a bit of a rogue, quickly agreed. Now, despite being a fucking lawyer whose job it is to know to follow the law, Burr thought an illegal duel sounded like just the mature way to resolve his issues with Hamilton. He was like, oh my God, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
In fact, this wouldn't even be his first duel. This was not his first rodeo.
Yeah.
Although in the previous one, no shots were fired and both parties just decided, like, not to. They both showed up.
Okay.
But they didn't. The other guy being, interestingly, the husband of Hamilton's sister-in-law, the famed Angelica Schuyler.
Okay.
Her husband. They had, like, a disagreement. So again, it's all to do with Hamilton. I
Yeah.
think they should have just kissed. So he was like, hell yeah, this sounds dope, and nothing bad will happen. All right, ready. There are, of course, lots of rumors surrounding the illegal duel that ended the life of Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
History knows for sure, because of course there were tons of witnesses, because people came and like watched, but nobody could really agree.
Yeah.
History knows for sure that both men shot, and that Hamilton, whether accidentally or on purpose, missed,
Okay.
and Burr didn't.
Okay.
The resulting lacerations to Hamilton's spine and liver led Alexander Hamilton to pass away the very next morning on July 12th, 1804.
Okay, so let me stop you for a second. So we had talked about this when you had told me this is what you're covering.
Uh-huh.
So I noticed you said illegal duel.
Yes.
So we know for sure it was not
There were no legal duels.
Okay.
So that was something that I thought, because again,
Yeah.
just like with the fucking elephant teeth with George Washington, I
Right.
feel like I was told as a child that they were allowed to do that.
yeah, it was
to
like a
settle
legal,
disputes.
a legal way to settle your disputes at the time. Obviously not anymore.
Right.
But so that was not a legal thing at all.
No. And it was especially illegal because they were both important people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they would have given a fuck if they were two farmers.
Yeah.
But he was found to like have been acting inappropriately due to his position and all kinds of stuff. So yes,
Really?
it was
Okay.
an illegal duel.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, so at this point, even though Burr was a successful attorney, he was super unpopular with the public.
Yeah.
Hamilton, on the other hand, had been well loved. And not for the first time, America mourned. Everyone was just devastated. Everyone loved Hamilton.
Well, he was like one of the founding fathers.
Yeah, and he's like so
Yeah.
cute with his rapping and stuff.
Okay.
Burr was Burr was forced to flee the state, but eventually returned to stand trial for murder. Even though dueling was super illegal and there had obviously been a ton of witnesses, the case never went to trial and Aaron Burr never went to jail.
Interesting.
I don't know why. I looked and looked and looked.
Interesting.
It just kind of was like, they just kind of dismissed it.
I wonder if it's because the idea of like, well, if we charge and prosecute and convict this guy, then we will have to go after, like it's a precedent thing, right?
Right.
Like if we are
true.
actually going to enforce this, then
Right.
we have to evenly enforce it across the
That
land.
makes sense.
So like they would have to start going after literally everybody who was doing duels, which was a
Which I'm
relatively
sure was
common
everybody.
thing.
Yeah.
Like that was not uncommon back then.
They're going to take away our duels.
Yeah.
These damn liberals.
All I want is trial by combat, and I can't even have that. Yeah.
This damn communist
My
country.
God.
So in the court of public opinion already, even though he didn't go to jail for this, his ass was grass. Now this is where I think Burr went a little crazy. After all this legal stuff died down where they were like, all right, we're not going to charge you. You can get out of here. He journeyed west. Okay, so now, Vicky, you have law knowledge. Try to put yourself in his little buckled shoes.
Okay.
Publicly humiliated. Everyone hates you. Your obviously way hotter rival is being actively mourned by the nation that refused to elect you president. Your hot-ass cougar wife is dead, and there's no air conditioning. Okay, are you in character?
Yeah.
You feel it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you two choices. Do you, A, use your remaining, probably pretty good law firm money, buy a reasonably sized home and a fashionable wig, open up a used bookstore, get a goldfish, and stay out of the public eye? Or B, try to create your own country?
Oh my God.
Yeah, Burr was like, my name starts with B.
I would do A, obviously.
yeah,
In
you
fact,
know-
I would probably at that point just go to Canada. Like I don't even know
Right.
that I would stay in the country at that point.
Well, I don't know how
or Mexico.
established Canada. Oh, we're getting there.
Yeah. One of the two.
Yep.
Because
Well,
Mexico was like easier to go
That's what he thought too.
in and out, I would assume,
Yep.
but maybe not.
Yep.
Anyway.
No, well, yeah, maybe not. Because
I'm sure you'll probably prove me wrong in a
we
minute.
don't
Yeah.
have Burr America, so,
Right.
it didn't work. Yeah, Burr went with B. So he had previously leased about 40,000 acres of land in present-day Louisiana.
Okay.
Because this was all like the Louisiana Purchase. Like it was all
Yeah.
kind of open land.
Yeah.
But the Spanish owned it at the time. So he leased 40,000 acres of land from the Spanish. Like he had done this years ago. And this was where he figured he'd build his own America with blackjack and hookers. His motivations have been lost to time, although I'm assuming he would have definitely had an Alexander Hamilton Sucks Butts Day, which would have been like a national holiday. That's probably the first thing he would have done. It would have been like,
May
okay.
1st, Alexander Sucks Butt Day.
Right. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're here for your country. And he's like, take your little Alexander, like, is on fire flag. And they're like, can we have taxes? Despite this plan being stupid and weird, Burr continued to travel through the country trying to drum up support. He wasn't quiet about it. Several people literally wrote Jefferson like, hey, you might want to like stop this guy.
So was he like America's first sovereign citizen? Is that like what we're getting at here?
Well, he tried.
Or one of, I should say.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this was nuts. This is nuts, and it gets more nuts. So Jefferson was like, yeah, you can't do that. And he charged the former vice president with treason.
Oh,
like,
God.
You can't do that.
Yeah. Wow.
This is Burr was arrested and put on trial, but the Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall acquitted Burr, arguing that there was a lack of evidence that he committed conspiracy, but he didn't take action against the government.
Okay.
It was kind of like they couldn't exactly charge him with what they wanted to because they couldn't prove that he was acting in like a presidential manner, I guess. Like that he wasn't part of the government at that point. He wasn't representing the government.
So it wasn't in his capacity as a government official.
Right.
Also, this is a time where like freedom, I mean, still like freedom of speech is a big fucking deal, but they were trying to figure out what that meant.
Right. I'm sure
then.
they had a bunch of things where they're like, oh, actually, I don't know the answer
like,
to that.
does this count or not? Like,
right. I'm sure it was difficult.
Yeah.
So he got acquitted, but it completely, obviously, wrecked his life. The rest of the story, like, I feel like if you're listening at home, you should put on, like, sad music, because he's, like, he's, like, lame and pathetic.
Yeah.
After being acquitted, so, like, he figured he'd try his luck overseas, where he promised, he was like, I'm going to go overseas, but I'm going to be, like, super normal. Psych! He approached several world leaders, this time with the plan to drum up a possible Mexican revolution against the U.S. Dude literally got kicked out of England. England was like, do not be in this country. Get the fuck out.
Had the actual like Mexican Revolution happened yet? Okay, so this is pre the actual like one that
and,
does
like,
end up happening.
He wasn't like, there was, and obviously that did happen, and there was like tension.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not because Burr went out and was drumming up support.
No. I know.
Yeah.
But it's like, he was right that like that was a thing that was happening, but he just couldn't use it to his advantage because like, sir, it doesn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Literally Napoleon, like he went to France and Napoleon was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And he wanted to do the same thing as England did, where they were like out of the country out. So he was like out of France and he was like, I can't afford the boat fare. And he was like, well, then I guess stay here for 5 years until someone comes to get you. So he had to wait, like kicking around stones in France until a boat came to come and get him.
Really?
So he's just like, being sad. He cheerfully started his law business back up at home like nothing had happened in America, and even managed to find true love with a socialite named Eliza Jumel. Just kidding. Well, I mean, he was definitely in love with her money. He pissed her off so much with his outward thievery of her fortune that she was able to legally divorce him.
Wow.
Which, of course, at the time was extremely hard to
Huge
accomplish.
deal.
I'm
Huge
imagining
deal.
the judge being like, now, little lady,
Yeah.
marriage is for life. And she just holds up a picture of Aaron Burr. And he's like, oh, that asshole? No problem.
Done. Say less.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the very day the divorce was granted, Burr did the funniest thing he could think of to do. That's right. He fucking died.
Oh.
Yeah, he died. He just died.
From
I don't know, 1800s.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were gonna say he killed himself, but
no, it was just kind of like he passed away.
he just was like, I'm done.
Okay, good night.
All right,
Good
life.
night,
See
sir.
you later.
Let me find this because I told you there was an update.
Yeah.
Update. Let me find that really quick. Sorry about that. Okay, so I thought this was super interesting. So remember back the first thing he did where he was with the so he wanted to be president and they were like, no, you're going to be vice president.
Yeah.
So at the time, like we were saying, it's all kind of like all of these government things, they're still trying to figure it out. Right. So they found in 2011, historian Thomas Baker discovered a previously unknown letter from like an associate of Burr's to another like leading Democratic Republican guy.
Okay.
They were planning in the letter, it strongly suggests that Aaron Burr was trying to plan America's first, but not last, insurrection.
Oh,
he
my
had
God.
this huge plan to seize the presidency from Thomas Jefferson. There wasn't anything that implied that it was like going to be violent, but like kind of through a technicality.
Yeah.
But it's also like not, I mean, everything was so like gentlemanly at the time that it's like, that's a
Right.
real shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
He ended up not going through with it. Again, I think that he knew he wouldn't have any support, but he had been
Yeah.
writing to like a lot of his very influential friends, and some people did support him.
Really?
So the fact that like that was only just discovered in like 2011.
Wow.
So it's like he didn't do it, but he
Interesting.
thought about it.
Yeah.
So all in all, Aaron Burr was a pretty interesting guy.
Yeah.
I will say he really seemed to care about law. He was always a pretty good lawyer. It's just when he tried to go for more, it just didn't really work out.
Yeah.
I think, in conclusion, if him and Hamilton would have kissed, none of this would have happened. And maybe by now we'd have free healthcare. The end.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I wish.
I wish, too.
I wish. Yeah. Well, before you decide to go to law school and start committing crimes,
In that order.
don't commit crimes, but
Don't go to law school
maybe
either.
check out this podcast.
Hello, this is Margot P.
And this is Margot D. And we are the Margos.
We are the Margos, co-hosts of the Book versus Movie podcast. We are the podcast that talks about films that are adapted from books. We read the book, we watch the movie, and then we decide which we like better, the book or the movie.
Now I know what you guys are going to say. Duh, the book is always better than the movie. To which we always reply, have you ever read
You ever
Jaws?
read Jaws? We are not film experts or literary geniuses.
Nope, we're just two friends who like to chat about books and movies.
We really like to go for a deep dive into the history of the book and the background of the author and the trivia from the movie set.
And most of all, we just like to have fun, so we never take ourselves or the books or movies too seriously.
You can find us wherever you sign up for your podcast under the name Book versus Movie.
And on social media, you can find us at Book versus and Movies. You just spell it all out.
Hope you check us out soon.
You can go to law school. We do need lawyers.
Well, I know, but I can't.
Good lawyers. Yeah, I mean, you could.
I can't read.
Girl, yes, you can. Don't even play. Well, that has been our show.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more like this, you can find those at badtastepodcast.com. Do you have anything to say before we close out? Do you have anything to close out with? Any last words?
I love lawyers. And if any of them want to sponsor our podcast, I think that would be great.
You have to be a very specific type of attorney.
A rich one.
Because we
We have a big budget.
because I don't know a lot of law firms that would sign on to our opinions. I'm going to be honest.
Are you a law firm? And the one thing you've been missing is a Midwestern true crime podcast.
Yeah, right.
Call us at the number listed below.
well,
at the number flashing on the screen.
Well, on that note, our sound and editing is by Tiffelman. Our music is by Jason Zashevsky, the Enigma. This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway. It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.